All right, I have a good quote for you right here. All right, ready? Move over, Rocky. Here's the real Italian Stallion. Stumpo, dude. Thrilled to have you. Thank you for doing this. I think I referred to you as absolute beaut in our first podcast. So I just kind of wanted to let the world know how much of a beaut you are, and that's why we're here today. So, Mitch, appreciate the hell out you, brother. Thank you.
No, it's my pleasure. The Be Young crew has been a huge part of my career and keeping this thing going and fine tuning my craft because when we get to the level we're at, it's not about the big gains anymore. It's about those small incremental adjustments, and I think that's a huge part of why I've been at Be Young for the past couple years, and here we are now.
Yeah, and we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yeah,
But first, I want to give a shout out to you just as a person. You got engaged this off season.
yeah.
I mean, a lot of you fit in a lot of firsts, a lot of big things this off season. Just talk about that and your off season, not necessarily from a baseball point of view, just everything you did outside of baseball. I think you went to Italy. You had a few vacation days here and there,
I took some paid
which is, I mean,
vacations.
well deserved.
They were
You
paid
took
though.
some paid. You took your PTO,
Yeah.
but you did that, and you went to Italy, like I said, and you had a few other things that you did. What all did you do this off season?
Yeah, the Italy trip was awesome. So we got done with the season, and the Italian Federation really wanted us to get together and
First off, you won the PCL,
won the
but you
PCL.
lost in the championship. Yeah. Show the ring. Look at you. You're an absolute stud.
So we won the PCL and we lost in the championship. We should have won. We played against the Bulls, which was really cool, just because growing up watching the Bulls and going to games when I was like in high school.
Was it there? Where was it
It was in
again?
Vegas. So, and Vegas
Yeah.
is talk about a beaut of a place. That's a show. That's a show stadium.
Where'd y'all stay for that?
So
Did you guys get a better hotel for it?
no, I mean they put us up in the Red Rock. You can't get much better than that. So it's off the Strip, which is cool,
Oh.
and it's a 5-star
Yeah.
resort. And that trip, whenever we get to go there, it's fun. And but yeah,
Damn right.
we won the PCL, and then we played the
Yeah.
AAA National Championship against the Bulls, and we did really well. Went into the last inning. We were up. I had thrown the eighth inning. Our closer came in. Wasn't his day, but overall, still it was a sick.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Did you win any money when you're there or no? Are you? Yeah, fair enough. Okay. All right. Well, that's around college football season too, wasn't it? Or that's actually in the heart of it now. Any good parlays? Hey, dude. Hey, if you're winning money, you're not a degenerate. That's all I'm gonna say. But yeah, so that Italy trip, kind of like you talked about, I'm gonna say we had Mason on here earlier. He was our second episode, and I don't know if you saw, but his mom made a calzone, and I kind of said he's probably more Italian than you are. So how much Italian are you actually?
Great grandfather. Uh,
Okay.
so they came over on the boat. It was kind of cool. I got when I did all the paperwork and everything, trying to find out who's
Mm-hmm.
who, and I found signatures from Ellis Island. I found documentations. My sister,
That's
she
sick.
actually went to Italy for a first semester abroad, and she found the passport from my great grandmother, which helped out a lot. And
Yeah.
once you get all that together, you send it off to their lawyers, and they figured it all out, confirmed everything, and but
So you have to do that to get.
I don't like the shade from Mason. He always thinks he's more Italian than me.
Dude, you guys have the same middle name,
Yeah,
Anthony, and then Joey too has his middle name
I know.
Anthony as well. Is that like that's got to be like Smith
I pretty much
or
just went
something,
by
right?
Tony when I was over there. I just told everybody my name was Tony.
Yeah, I feel like you kind of have
Yeah.
to. So do you have any like good family recipes that you have, or
My
like
dad has
anything passed down?
my dad has a pasta recipe that
What do you got?
he's had for a long time, and he hasn't given it to my fiance. It's her favorite dish, I think. Like if she was
He won't hand it out.
no, if she was on death row, he that was be her last meal, but he won't give it out to her until
Really?
she's officially part of the family.
Give us a little preview. What do you got? What do you got? What is it? What's all in it? I
I'll
mean,
just
maybe you don't have to give away the. What is it?
I'll just say it all starts with fresh, homegrown ingredients.
That doesn't tell me anything.
Yeah, exactly.
But like, what kind of what's it called? Can you give me a
No,
name of
it's
it?
just like the pasta sauce itself. That's the big one. The
Is it
pasta
like a
sauce.
red sauce? Is it
Yeah, it's a red
red
sauce,
sauce?
and it's all about
I'll get to the bottom of
it's
it.
all about making it yourself, homegrown in the
Okay.
garden. My dad grows his own
Does he
ingredients.
have a? He has it. Okay,
Yeah,
that's sick.
so
So he
that
has one here in North Carolina. He has
yeah yeah
a garden.
he grows his own tomatoes. He grows all the ingredients pretty much for it, and that makes a difference.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'll take back what I said. I think you have a little bit more Italian than I originally thought. So,
Yeah, but my mom's super
um,
southern, so it's funny. I've got the two sides that are like total opposites.
did you do like a little hybrid, like
I know.
Southern
I'm a
meal
mutt.
with
I'm a
some
mutt.
Italian?
Yeah, I'm a mutt.
That's fair. That's fair. But I guess I brought that up because I'm pretty disappointed you didn't bring us anything in this off season from Papa Stumpo. What's going on there?
I know. I need to bring a big old batch of. Now that I've heard there's a calzone rolling around, I need to.
Dude, he brought this calzone in, massive, and I asked him what was in it. He said prosciutto and months. So I was like, all
Prosciutto
right, there's a
months.
little Italian vibe too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, whatever that means.
He knows what
So,
he's
but it was
doing.
good.
I'll give it to him.
Yeah, but yeah, man, I going kind of talking about the off season again. We had a blast in here, and I think what I enjoyed most. And if you've seen the live at bat video, I think a perfect summation of who you are. You didn't even throw that day, but we put a guest starring on the B-roll, and it's you sitting on the toilet waving to the camera, and I still laugh when I see it every day. What in your history, or what, I guess, as a person, made you into that guy that wanted to have fun, have a good time, but also knows when to, like, hey, it's time to work? Like, what kind of did that for you, I guess?
Definitely my dad. So, like growing up, my dad was really good at like separating work from home life too.
Okay.
And
Okay.
it was like kind of crazy because every time he came home, I always like it was just surprising almost that whether and I when I, especially when I was young, I had no idea what was going on at the office, and he's run a business
Yeah.
for over 35 years now. And when he would come home every day, it was the same thing. He would be in a good mood, he would be smiling, and he just wanted
Yeah.
to, you know, exude happiness. And whether he had a good day or bad day at work, it was really special for me because I just got to have a really good influence on me in terms of
Yeah.
just whether you had a good day or bad day, it didn't matter. He was always going to be happy around the people he loved the most. And I think that's been
Right.
a big part. Just waking up every day, knowing how thankful and how blessed we are to be able to do what we do. Like I get to go into the off season. I don't have to work really. I get to come
Yeah.
into a facility like Be Young and, you know, be around a lot of fun guys and laugh and play around. So that type of stuff. But then like when we would go out there to the backyard and throw or hit or whatever we were going to do, it was business for however long we needed to do it. And then we're right
Yeah.
back to where we used to be. So it was a really good, he had a really good idea of how having to separate work from play, getting the job done when you need to get done, and separating that time of like, hey, I need to focus here and be smart about my work. And then whenever it's over, you can kind of look forward to when it's done. So it's like, hey, we're going to set an hour here and we're going to get it done, and we're going to be determined in what we're doing, and then when we're done we can go right back to where we're at. So
I got you. Yeah. Is that something you need to like work at, or is that something that just kind of like you did it ever since you were a kid, so it kind of comes natural, or is it like I mean, dude, I play. I know how hard it can be when it's like you go an inning in a third, you give up two homers, you walk two, and it's like you gotta be able to flush that, man. Like you have outside of baseball, you have a life. You know, you
yeah,
have a family, you have a fiance now. Like you gotta be the best person. You gotta be the best Mitchell Stumpo you can be for them after you leave the clubhouse, and it's challenging, dude. Like it's hard, and I know that most baseball players can relate to that. So is that something that, again, is that something you had to work at? Is that something that just kind of like comes naturally now because of your upbringing, or is it a constant challenge?
no, it definitely came naturally, just like to be able to like to separate things and also just bring a good attitude every day into the clubhouse. I will say though, if I'm being honest, this was actually one of the first years I really struggled with that mentality, because I had a good start to the year, and then about a month or so in, the organization asked a few things of me that were like not what I'm used to doing, and it really threw me off, and I started to struggle.
What was that? What they ask you to do? I
They
mean,
want
if you can get into it, you don't
Yeah,
have to.
I
But
mean they wanted me to throw a little bit more fastballs and be a little bit more even with my pitch distribution. So they wanted me more like 50
okay,
50 because I was always like around like 70-30 slider to fastball, which was like pretty unconventional.
slider over fastball.
Yeah, which was pretty unconventional,
Yeah,
but it always worked for me, and I was doing well, and I thought I was on a great path. And then they wanted me to change, and it really threw me off. And it was a really good learning experience, I would say. When we look back, it was hard
yeah,
at the time, but it was a good learning experience to deal with those type of things and do things that are really at a really high level too. To attack guys totally differently
yeah.
than what I'm used to, because it totally
What was
changed
the reasoning
everything.
for that? You think? Well, like what? I mean, I know. I mean, I'm sure I have an idea, but like, what did they kind of like sit down and tell you? This is why we're doing that.
They thought it would be really hard for me to succeed at the next level if I was so consistent with sliders, and they thought that would have hindered my big league career if I was so on the slider. But it was so hard to grasp at the time because I was doing so well, and I started to
Yeah,
struggle, and I was having trouble being the same guy a lot throughout
right.
the middle of the season. I would say like June and July, or about June and
Mm-hmm.
then mid July, I really struggled with being that same guy and bringing like joy to the locker room every day. I was in a different place. It came home with me. It came home with my
Yeah,
my fiance and my family. Like that was like the first time
right.
I've really struggled with some failures at such a high level when I felt like I was so close. Now fast forward to this year, thankfully I've things have kind of changed, and I've got free reign back to what I'm really used to and what I'm good at. Because
Mm-hmm. What was the percentages there? Do you have like your like really?
you're just in
And
such
like I
tight
know like
situations, you're only going to throw at your best.
yeah, and I know again I don't want to give it away too much too early in the episode here, but like I they called it a cutter,
Yeah,
and I know like in like my brief history in player development and pitch design, like it's almost for you like a slutter.
yeah,
It's kind of like that hybrid hard slider, but when it's really good, it's similar to like that DeGrom effect, where it's around the similar velo to your heater, but it just has that late like
yeah.
I'm getting to the plate, and then all of a sudden, no, I'm dropping down.
And
You know what I
I
mean? So like I think, go ahead.
Yeah, and I don't know if I probably talked to you about this a little bit, but that's kind of who I went after years ago when I started kind of doing my
Mm-hmm.
own pitch design by myself. I looked at DeGrom, right? And I don't throw 100 every pitch, obviously. But I saw
For
him, and
100 pitches.
yeah, and I saw him, and he was throwing 100 miles an hour, but he had this 92-mile-an-hour cutter slider thing, right?
Because it doesn't look like it moves a ton on camera,
Right,
and it's similar to like it doesn't look like it's this huge sweeping slider.
right.
It's a heater, and then all of a sudden, just to the eye, it's not. It's a strange looking pitch almost.
Yeah, and that's what was like so crazy. It was like I looked at it, but it was getting so many swings and misses, and cutters don't get that many swings and misses. They induce
Mm-mm.
ground
A lot of
balls
contact,
and soft
broken
contact.
bats, all
Yeah,
that. Yep.
but he was
Mm-hmm.
getting so many swings and misses. I was like, there's a reason for that. Everyone always talked about like, oh, it's got to be 10 mile an hour slower. It's got to be 10 miles an hour slower. But he would flash
Yeah,
94
yeah.
mile an hour sliders. So once I saw that, I was like, and I knew I had the ability to do it because I saw the velos of what I was throwing sliders at. I was like, I can do that.
Yep.
Obviously on a much different scale because I don't throw as hard as he does. But I just had such a
We're
good
close.
I had such a good control of it, and
Yeah.
manipulating movements and doing different things, like getting a little bit more of a cutter, an actual cutter early, kind of going to a bigger one late. And then I've kind of developed this
Mm-hmm.
I've pretty much developed one now that's like that more just straight down action that I really miss a lot of
Yeah.
barrels with, because it works now. Like it's kind of like that split slider, it's hard, and
Mm-hmm.
it's usually going to be down. It's going to be down and out other
Yeah.
ways. It kind of just does a bunch of different things. And
Did you throw that curveball at all? And we'll kind of get into that a little bit. Did you throw that in WBC at all?
not in the WBC. I've been throwing it in spring training though,
Okay.
and
All right.
I had a lot of good feedback from it too.
Yeah, the one report I saw you sent me had you threw it like 86 at like 45 foot and the guy swung.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I think, going forward, I think that'll be a good weapon for you too. On top of the slider, just because like you talked about how at the big league level, it's, when you have more to your arsenal that you can that plays off of your heater and plays off your slider, I think the better.
Yeah.
And I think we're getting too far in the weeds pitch design wise, but
Uh,
I think you're in a good spot, man. At B Young, obviously there was a lot of changes that kind of went on this past off season for us. Integrated a lot more, some new programming, a little bit more emphasis on the pitch design aspect. What did you think about the changes that we made this past off season? What do you think benefited you the most? Just kind of discuss about what you did this off season here with us.
yeah. So other than my paid vacations, I was in obviously as much as I could.
Way too many vacation days.
I I I really enjoyed the way it was set up this year. Just
Okay.
with you gave us the facility from 9 to 12. Pretty much, it was just
Yeah.
us every day. We could play the music we want. We could do the things we want. That really was a really comfortable situation because we weren't fighting with anybody with where we were and what we were doing and what we were saying. So it was kind of a really
Yeah.
good environment. And that was the biggest thing that changed like everything for me was having that set time to run in, get your things done, work with people, work with you and Chris, and really get the work in in an
Yeah.
isolated environment without any other distractions. And just being around the guys and a lot of the professionals, like that was huge. I think that made a huge difference for
Yeah.
me, and made some really good upgrades to the weight room. I thought that was huge for me as well. So
And we have Brandon's very adamant about getting that bar speed stuff for you too, so that's coming.
yeah,
Um, I know that's a big thing that a lot of pro teams now use, and that's going to be something we're going to integrate definitely in the next off season. So excited
yeah,
to have that. And there's a lot of stuff that we've talked about that we're bringing in that I'm pretty pumped about. So
yeah.
have to stay tuned on that for you. But how'd you find B Young? Like, what was your initial thoughts of Brandon?
So it was a weird one. The first time I met Brandon was in the
What year was it?
2019 off season going into 2020. So I
Okay.
had been going to what was I doing? I was working at a facility, and then I was working with Pro 5 as well. And
You were working, like you were an employee somewhere, or you're saying
no,
you're
no,
working out somewhere?
I was working out with them, and I was throwing and
Okay.
everything. And so I actually noticed something in my arm that was getting really tight, and it was in my
Okay.
forearm, and I was
Mm-hmm.
like, that doesn't look right, that doesn't look right. And
Yeah.
I ended up finding B Young from, I guess I forgot exactly who told me. I know my fiance's family told me about him, but then like looking up baseball specialists in the area,
Mm-hmm.
he was one of them, especially physical therapists, which is huge for us because we get to have that treatment on a day in day out
Yeah. Yeah.
basis. But I went in to Brandon to look at my forearm, and it was an extra muscle in my forearm that it was tight. Yeah,
Really?
yeah. So that was the first time I met him, and he looked at it. He did all the he tried to figure out what it was, and then realized that it was just I was born with an extra muscle in my forearm, which was
I actually have that. I have that too.
yeah. I think we talked about
Yeah.
that, and
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
so that was actually the first time I met him, and then obviously joining him in 2021 officially
Yep.
coming into the facility. So when you were still playing,
Yeah. A long time ago. Not so
yeah.
long ago. What was your first thoughts about Brandon? I think we actually just interviewed Brandon yesterday, so that podcast is coming too. What were your initial thoughts on him and everything that he represents and the technology that he has in house? What were your kind of your first thoughts?
So the two things that really stuck out to me was one, he's been doing it since before I was born, I think. I was seeing videos from like 2000 whatever
Yeah,
when I was
we're
like
updating those videos. Yeah.
I was in like lower school, and this guy's doing biomechanics with guys on sides of high school fields, which was absurd to me
Mm-hmm.
because he was probably so far ahead of almost anybody in the country that's ever thought about doing any of this.
Yeah.
So that was really
Mm-hmm.
cool. I was like, whoa, this guy's been doing it. He wasn't someone that just hopped on the train when he saw Driveline doing it or Tread doing it. He'd been
No,
doing
dude.
it
Yeah.
for years and years, probably before they even thought about it. I mean, he was probably in the realm of like Bodie and all them, like maybe even
Around the
before.
same time, man.
Yeah,
I want to say those guys were like the first two to. I don't want to say market, but like the first two to this whole entire scene. Brandon isn't too sworn enough, I don't think, but like
right.
like you said, he's been doing this forever, dude. Like
Yeah.
forever, and so he's seen everything.
And
Oh, go on. Sorry.
that was really special to know that someone has been investing their life into this. And then I think another big thing was when I got there and he knew how I was doing. He knew that I had a lot of success in that 21 season. A lot of guys I feel like will go into a biomechanics and want to change a bunch of things because I'm not throwing 100 or anything like that. I was still throwing like I'm around like 94, 95, 96 and getting up to like 97, but he didn't jump into that and say like, oh, we got to get you to throw 100 and we got to force it, because the velo isn't what makes me successful. It was the slider and things like that. So he didn't automatically want to just shift everything and change me. He just wanted to fine tune me very small amounts to make me a better pitcher, a more healthy pitcher as well for the long run.
Yeah.
And I think that meant a lot to me.
What changes?
I think it was a lot of rotational. It was a lot of rotational, and it was hip separation too, because that's such a hard thing to grasp. I think when people say hip separation, hip shoulder separation, it's something I still grasp every day. But rotational power was huge for me, and I have this really good routine with stuff that we've worked with, of course, med balls and aqua balls, and a lot of rotational power that have made me a stronger pitcher. Yeah. And able to throw a little bit more effortlessly.
And do it more consistently, too.
And I think he was huge to not jump into my biomechanics and say, we got to change this, this, and this, and this. He knew my stats from last year. He knew how well I did, and he knew that I had the ability to continue doing that. So he just took small increments and said, let's just change. And like we went into this offseason, it was the same thing. He said, you had a good year. There's nothing to worry about with anything. So let's not go crazy and try to change a bunch of things. Let's just continue to build on what we have.
Yeah, and you've always had like just a couple different things, at least from my eyes looking in. Like there's always been a couple different cues for you that kind of get you right back on track, and they're very small.
Right.
And it's like, okay, we're there.
Exactly. And I think a lot of that's just continuing to be an athlete, not trying to just be a pitcher. I think that helped out a lot. Just like continuing to like throw from different angles and move the feet. And because I was a two-way in college, so I didn't want to lose that. And I really try to incorporate a lot of that and just moving the body and doing different things than what a pitcher would just do, so you don't get stuck.
And that's what I think, you're able to, that's a great segue into kind of where you came from as a D3 player. But I think a lot of guys, especially that play lower levels of college baseball, like if you're a two-way and you have a good arm, I don't want to say it's an easy it's not for everybody, but like I see that happen more often than not. Like what do you think that is? Is that just kind of being an athlete throughout your whole entire career, not losing that in college? Because a lot of guys will go to college, become POs, and lose athleticism.
Right.
Like you're able to maintain it for a big part of your developmental years. For those, was it 3-4 years you were at that Guilford, right?
Yeah.
So you're able to do that for 3-4 years and maintain that athleticism that a lot of pitchers that become POs they lose.
Yeah.
Like can you speak to that at all? Like is that something that am I anywhere near the mark there, or what do you think?
Yeah. I mean, so I got hurt in high school. I had like a acute avulsion fracture of the elbow, so I broke my elbow. The UCL was intact. I got 2 screws put in there, and that pretty much shut down my pitching career. And that was going into my junior year of high school. So I became a position player. I was nothing special at all in high school, going to a small private high school, and then
don't say that, you're special.
And then went into, I got a call from Coach Black, and it was late, like May, and I was going to go to Clemson just to go to school. Wasn't playing baseball, nothing, because there was just no offers, and I'd done a bunch of stuff trying to get something, but I just wasn't anything special. And he called me late May. I'd done a workout there, and it was like my only D3 workout, and I did a workout there, and he called me late May, and he's like, hey, do you want to come play? And I was like, I guess. And I really went just because I was like, I enjoy playing. I didn't really love it if I'm being honest, because I was like, you can't really love a game that you're not very good at, and it's the truth. It's like it's really hard.
I love golf.
I know,
I suck at golf, but I love it.
I know. I'm playing today, and I'm probably gonna be terrible, but I'm still gonna love it. But it's hard to love a game that you aren't good at. So I went there, and I was a position player my first year playing third base. I was really bad. I mean, I had talking like more errors than I had hits, and I got benched halfway through the year.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's one of the worst stat lines I've ever heard.
I know. I hit like 150 in Division III baseball, facing like mediocre pitching all the time. And then after that year, I almost quit. I was like, I'm wasting my time. I look like an idiot. And talked to my dad again, another person, my dad keeping me going. He was like, hey, just give it one more year. And I looked at him, I was like, all right, well,
Yeah.
this isn't going to happen again. I put in a bunch of work that off season. I came back. I was a really late bloomer. So I finally was growing, like actually growing my freshman year, hit my growth spurt sophomore year, became an athlete, and then just dominated that year and got a bunch of
Hitting or both?
hitting. So I hit like, I want to say I hit like 375. I was all conference and played the outfield and did really well. And then the great thing about Division III baseball, I was messing around one day, throwing on the mound, and if it was Division I, if they saw one of their better hitters on the mound, the coach would have had a heart attack and said,
freak out.
And
yeah,
said,
freaking out.
Never touch the mound again, and they'd probably be mad at you to risk an injury like that. But being Division III, if you threw decently hard, so he saw that and he was like, you want to throw a couple innings at the end of this year? And I ended up doing that, threw a couple innings, and I was.
What a sick coach.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, so I hopped on the mound.
Respect.
And I was coming from the outfield. I only threw probably maybe 8 innings at the end of that year in relief. And so yeah, I wasn't throwing like anything crazy. I was probably throwing maybe 86 to 88. But in D3 that's pretty hard. So after that year.
And this is when you just jumped on the mound.
Yeah.
That one day.
Yeah. So I wasn't.
How'd you get a radar gun? They just had it there?
Yeah. We had a radar gun, and I remember we would be messing around in the cages, trying to do pull downs as hard as we could, and hitting 90 on a pull down after. We thought that was crazy. And we were so after that year, everything was good. Came in the next year, it was let's have you start. So I started that year, and it was again okay. I gotta look at exactly what it was. I want to say I had a 5 that year. I was still a two-way.
Okay.
That year was okay, pretty good, and then my coach, my assistant coach, Chris Johnson, he got me a contract with the Gastonia Grizzlies in the CPL, and he got me
that college summer league.
Yeah, and he got me
Coastal Plains League.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
He got me a good contract. He got me the temp contract there. I had played in the Holly Springs the year before after sophomore year. I didn't touch the field there. They wanted nothing to do with me. So I did a temp contract there, and that was it there. So that didn't go well. I didn't do anything there. And then fast forward to the next summer, I'm playing for Gastonia, and I was in the temp contract starting there. Again, that year in D3 went okay. I mean, again, I have 5 is okay. I mean, I wasn't doing anything crazy. Just throwing the baseball. I wasn't a pitcher. I was just throwing the baseball. And then, so I'm in Gastonia. I'm starting. I'm actually doing pretty well. They put me on a full contract, and then I'm actually doing really well, facing a lot of Division I players. And I was like, dang, I can maybe do this. So after that year,
I'm nasty.
Yeah, after that summer, I hit 100 innings, and then I went over the drive line, and then that's kind of when I started to understand the whole pitching stuff, because I was I didn't understand anything about it. It was kind of still new age, and this was back in 2018. So it was a lot of new age stuff, and I was kind of all right. And I didn't go there and get a million. I didn't gain any miles an hour when I was there. It was more just an eye-opening experience, an expensive eye-opening experience. But that helped a lot in terms of just opening my eyes. So senior year, I go into senior year thinking maybe I have a shot. I was throwing a little bit harder. I was maybe I have a shot at playing at the next level, right? Well, this is
2019.
This is 2019 now, yeah. And I'm so that first, it was my second start or something like that year, and I gave up 9 runs and 1+ innings, and I was all right, there goes my career, because coming back from 9 runs is pretty tough. So sat down with my coach, and he was let's just have you.
ERA's overrated, dude.
Yeah. And I had 180 ERA at that time, and so
infinity.
So, yeah, had sat down with my coach, and he was let's just have you come in and relieve now. Just work on, let's just hit and let's just relieve out of the outfield. So did that. Finished the year strong, but I mean, you're not coming back from 9 runs. So I think I still ended up with a 4.8 or something like that year.
That's impressive.
And
got that down pretty quick.
Yeah, and so finished that year, graduated, Started to do a bunch of post-draft workouts, independent workouts that summer after I graduated.
Yeah.
Nothing. And also about that game it was against Randolph-Macon. I gave up 9 runs. That was the only time I ever had a professional scout come and watch me. So that was the first. That was the first and only time.
Way to blow it.
Yeah,
Way
that
to
was the
blow it.
first and only time I had a professional scout come watch me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I did a
Yeah.
bunch of draft workouts, and like I was throwing probably like 90, 93, and like I thought I had a shot. No one was interested, especially coming from Division 3, and like didn't have any good
Yeah.
numbers. Like it wasn't like I had like a 1 something in Division 3. So nothing was coming of it. This was now late June, and my dad was like, "Let's go down to this thing in St. Pete, Florida." And I was like, "I really don't want to do anymore, Dad." I was pretty gassed and like just pretty
Yeah.
fed up with the whole thing and disappointed in how everything was going. And he was like, "Well, if it doesn't work out, we'll just play some golf. Like if it's a yeah." I was like, he's like,
Could
if
be
it's
worse.
yeah, if it's a terrible, he said, if it's a terrible thing, we'll just play golf and bang it. So
Yeah.
I went there. To this day, still don't know how. I was chucking like 4 to 6 with the slider. It was an independent tryout. Like I was
Florida weather.
yeah, so it was an independent tryout and it was for independent ball, but there was a D-backs independent scout there, and Cash,
Okay.
he somehow got my name to his boss, and he said, "You need to make this happen." And he called me. I was leaving after the last day of the camp. He was asking me a bunch of
Hmm.
questions, like, and they were really confused. They're like, "Is this like you? Like, do you throw this hard? Like they were confused because like why was this kid throwing 94, 96 at playing Division 3 with a force and
Yeah.
5, the years before. So I pretty much lied to him, and I was like, "Yeah, that's me. I mean, I throw that hard," which I had never had ever in my
Messy.
life. I think the hardest I threw was like
Yeah.
93 and or
And
90.
you have no idea what caused that.
No, never. Don't not a clue. So he actually his Chris Carminucci called me. I was on the airplane. I was sitting on the airplane on
Hmm.
the tarmac about to take off, and Chris Carminucci calls me and he says, "Hey, we're gonna sign you." And I was like, "That's awesome. I am about to take off." He's like, "Okay, well, you'll have a contract in your email when you land." So that was probably the longest hour and a
That's
half
cool,
flight
man.
back
Really cool.
from St. Petersburg I've ever had, because I landed. I immediately was refreshing my email. I had the contract. I signed it, and that was that.
That's crazy, man. And I think what's so cool about that is like there were so many times in there that seemed like, all right, this isn't gonna happen.
Right.
Like it's not for me. Like I didn't do this. I didn't have a good ERA. I didn't throw in hard enough. I didn't dominate. And then it's like, okay, I go to one thing, and the first time I saw a professional scout, I didn't do well, but you kept going, and it just took that one time,
I know.
And I think what at least kind of going back to the off season, like having a lot of these guys in here, I can think of a couple that have similar like stories that they're in right now, that kind of pitch at similar levels and are just trying, just
Right.
continually grinding through this, and like it can happen,
I know.
and you're proof of that, and I think that's just so cool to me because it doesn't have to be the big time D1 arm, like it doesn't have to be, the high school stud. Like you keep going and you work hard enough, and usually good things happen to good people, and you just keep going, man.
And
I think that's gonna resonate with a lot of people, man.
it's like one of those things where people keep telling you like, "Oh, just you got to have the right place, right time. It just takes one. It just takes one." You always
Hmm.
hear that, and you're like, "Dude, that's such bullshit." Like I was doing all this stuff, and I'm like, this is not gonna happen. I was like, and
Yeah,
then it literally was
yeah.
right place, right time. It took one good,
And your dad convinced you to go.
yeah. It took one thing.
Like
My
we have a
dad
guy
found,
going. We have a guy going. We have a guy going to a tryout right now. He's driving from here to Dallas, Texas.
yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean?
You
And
just don't
so,
know. You just don't know where it's gonna come from, and
yeah.
somehow it did.
And he had a huge velo jump this year. I mean, DC pretty
Oh
well.
yeah,
So like I'm excited for him, man. I think he's got a chance. Freak athlete. So we'll see. But again, I just think it's so cool because he played at a similar level as you did and going through a very similar time. You know
yeah,
what I mean? And it only takes that one.
yeah.
So I think that's really cool. What was the so going from D3, you're in pro ball. How was that jump in competition? Like, was that something that like hit you kind of in the face hard? Did you kind of adapt to it quick? Did that 94, 96 become more consistent? Like,
Right.
how'd that go for you?
Dude, I was scared to death because like I went into that I went into that first year, and I only played like a month of rookie ball, but I went into
Yeah.
that first year and went to Missoula, Montana, and I was scared to death because I'm like, they're gonna find out I don't throw 94, 96, right? And
I'm a fraud.
I'm a fraud, dude. I was freaking out. I'm like, and I think that's kind of where the slider kept its identity, because I went into these games and somehow found myself closing pretty much right off the bat. And I went into these games knowing like, oh, I got to throw as hard as I can every single time. And I was just ripping stuff as hard as I could, fastballs and sliders, and like somehow found this really good comfortability with the slider, throwing it really hard. And then kind of went away from not worrying about the fastball being what it needs to be, but I was just like, the slider was the identity of who I am now. And that was because I went into these games scared to death, thinking if I don't throw a certain speed, they're going to release me. And I was like, I just need to throw everything hard. And then all of a sudden I got this
Motivation.
Yeah, I've got this slider that's doing crazy things at high speeds, and I was like, heck, I guess this is me now. But the velo did climb accordingly, because I was developing as a pitcher and as an athlete and everything. And that year went really well. COVID happened, and I was scared to death there too, because I thought, I was like, there's no way, dude, I'm gonna get released out of this, because I had a bunch of friends that were getting released, and I was like, there's no way they're gonna keep a guy like me. I somehow hung around. Went through that whole year training and working at a law firm, just trying to make a little bit of money. And then
You're a lawyer too? I didn't know that.
I'm a lawyer. I was just doing paperwork at this law firm, and I went in that 21 year and really
Yikes.
The 21 year really changed my career for sure, because I was
you kind of flew through there, right?
because didn't have a good spring training. We didn't have any releases in spring training, which never happens. I thought I was definitely on the chopping block. And then they sent me to low A. I was like 25, and I was in low A, and I was like, it was like I was 6 years older than all the people in low A, because there's no more rookie ball. So did well.
So you're the old guy.
I was the old guy, and
the old young guy.
And then exactly. It was only my first year, and I was the oldest dude there, and I was like, this is weird. And so I did well, and I was only there for about a month or so. And then they called me up to high A, and then did really well there. I was only there for like 3 weeks. Got called up to double A. I did well in double A. Had about 2 months there. I spent most of my year there. And then that last month, when I thought I was going to be good at double A, they called me up to triple A. Spent the last month there. My second day when I was in triple A, I got called into the office, and they're like, hey, they're going to send you to the fall league. And it was just a crazy, surreal year of going from low A to playing in the fall league as a Division III player. And now I'm playing in the fall league with the top prospects of baseball. And then there's me. So it was crazy to feel like it's such a chip on your shoulder.
Don't give yourself enough credit.
No, but it was such a chip on your shoulder where you're like, dude, this is crazy. I'm striking out guys that they're, MLB Pipeline and all these people are tweeting about. And it was an awesome thing that they allowed me to do, which I was super thankful that they allowed me to do that. So,
yeah. Well, you had another big strikeout recently that a lot of people were tweeting out that was a pretty good player. We'll get to that here in a minute. So obviously, like, we'll kind of fast forward. Obviously, you had a pretty good 2022, and then this offseason happened, and then you got to go play in the World Baseball Classic, the hat that you're wearing right now.
Yeah.
The Italian Stallion. And I just thought it was so cool, dude, like, to watch you go out there and face who you faced and go dominate.
Yeah.
And like, I could tell the emotion was there, and like, did it mean more because of your dad's heritage, you think, and how much of an influence he was in your pro career? Did that kind of sit in the back of your mind at all while you were doing this, or how'd you feel about that?
Yeah, and like my grandfather, so it was crazy. Like, and I think all things happen for a reason, but my grandfather was hanging on by a thread when I graduated college, and he had dementia. But when we were growing up, it was like we watched the Yankees and we loved baseball together, and he loved my career, and he wanted me to go so far. He got to see me someone got to see me play college baseball. He was kind of losing himself at that point, but it was nuts because he got to see my sisters graduate college, and then he got to see me graduate college, or at least he was here with us then. I signed with the Diamondbacks, and that was in early July when I signed. And
Yep.
when I signed with the Diamondbacks, about 2 or 3 days later, he passed. So I felt like after I
Okay.
signed, it was almost like he was good. He was like I'd seen everything I need to see, and he was
Yeah.
good. And he
That's I
was,
got chills, dude.
I
That's
know,
sick.
yeah.
Stop.
And he was like he
Damn.
was
That's
90, he
cool.
was 91 when he passed, and he had lived such a good life, and he was very Italian too. And so playing in this classic
Yeah.
was so big for me and for him, just because I know he would have just he was rolling over in his grave, thinking about me playing, for Team Italy, and we were playing Frank
Yeah.
Sinatra, who was his favorite.
That's so
He
cool.
was his favorite
Yeah.
artist because he was a piano player his whole life, and Frank Sinatra was his
Did you have a
guy.
walkout song?
No, they asked for it, and I put it in there, but they didn't do any walk-ups.
Should pull. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
But he would have loved that. I mean, really would have loved that, and so that was really important to me
Yeah.
playing for him, especially because he was such an Italian boy. He grew up in Rome, New York, and he
Mm-hmm.
so such a big part of his life as well. So meant a lot, but
That's so cool.
such a cool experience though all around. I mean, I can't speak enough of it. The people I went with and the teammates. We put together a lot of young energy, a lot of young talent, which was really cool.
Sneaky good roster, man.
Yeah, yeah, really, really. And we
You
got,
know?
I don't think anybody, we beat the two of the best teams in our pool, Cuba and the Netherlands. The Netherlands has like,
Yeah.
they got a half a
Great
billion,
teams.
they got a $500 million lineup and in the infield with Bogarts and
Yeah.
Profar and Didi Gregorius and Simmons. Like they got some.
They're nasty. Yeah.
So beating those guys in that first pool was surreal. No one
Mm-hmm.
really expected us to do that, and obviously advancing to playing the Tokyo Dome was an experience like no other.
Yeah.
So it was
Place is a madhouse, dude.
madhouse. I mean, and the fans. I mean, it was 55,000 people. It was stocked to the brim. It was Otani's last game in Japan for a while, of
Mm-hmm.
course. So we were down that game, but going into that last inning, it was crazy because we were down. But when I walked up onto the mound and hearing the crowd and the people and facing these type of caliber players, because they obviously, I mean, they won the World Baseball Classic, so they put together a crazy good roster
Yeah.
of the best,
Really good roster.
and then facing a guy like Otani, who I have such a respect for because of he's a two-way, and I was a two-way in Division III baseball, and I struggled with Division III baseball, and this guy's doing it at the highest level. I don't think people understand. It's not
Yeah.
about the ability to have your work on your craft, and pitching and hitting is so incredibly hard. He's one of the best players, if not the best player to walk the earth. So pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, he's our modern day Babe Ruth.
Absolutely.
You know, that throws a billion miles an hour as well.
Yeah.
Because obviously the time here in North Carolina is a little different. So like I would wake up and obviously I'd get on and check social media or whatever. And one of the first tweets I see is by Carabas
Yeah.
from Barstool. And it's like
Who I don't like because I
Shohei.
grew up a Yankees fan, and he just hates
Yeah.
on Yankees. So I always was
Well,
against him until
yeah,
that
dude.
day.
So he tweets out, I think he just tweeted, it was just about Shohei. It was like Shohei has the best facial expressions or something like that, even on swing and misses. And I saw it was like a 90-mile-an-hour slider that he swung right over. I was like, I think I've seen that slider before. So I did a little bit more digging, and I saw that you were actually pitching against him. And obviously that tweet went viral, and it was pretty cool. I'm sure for you, but for us to see, just because of what we think of you and we know how hard you work, just to kind of see that you were starting to get that recognition. And people started tweeting out like, look at this nasty cutter slider that,
Yeah.
made Otani swing and miss. And then there wasn't a lot of like at you or anything like that, but you punched the side out that inning too,
Yeah.
and I was like, I didn't realize that until after I saw that Otani swung and missed.
Yeah.
So who all did you face? I know it was Otani. Did you face who else was it again?
It was Kondo, he was
Okay.
one of their best players in the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
That classic, super tough out, which I was pumped about. Obviously, Shohei was next, and then Yamada, I think it was, and
I don't know.
yeah. But those are the three. But they were all, and that's what's crazy about Japan is like the U.S. obviously put together a crazy good team, but Japan is so different. They have such a crazy respect for their country and they desire to
Yeah.
play for their country that they put together. The only guys in their lineups are the best of the best, and I think it's hard.
Yeah.
It's not the same with the U.S. Like we still put together such an amazing lineup, but with Japan, it's like they're not wasting anybody. They're putting only the. I mean, they have the Babe Ruth of Japan, and they have the Babe Ruth in Japan playing for them. So it's kind of a different world over there, and it was big for
Yeah.
them because they kind of put themselves back on the map as very close to what the MLB can offer as well. But they just play a different brand of baseball, and the way that their crowds get into it is so different.
Yeah. You mind showing everybody the grip real quick? Slider and if you don't mind, like fastball, slider, and curveball.
Yeah. All right. So I got the Shohei ball right here.
Oh, yeah, you did.
It's
Keep that.
even got the scuff mark where I
That ball in
bounced.
the dirt.
Yeah, that last one. Sorry. So
Is that a different ball? Are they all big league balls?
it's a official ball 2023 World Baseball Classic. So it doesn't say MLB baseball
That's
on it
sick.
actually. It just had the logo.
It looks like it though.
It
Yeah.
it, it I
Did they change the ball at all?
I've heard rumors where they were trying to put juice balls in there or whatever. So who knows? But they felt like
Yeah,
normal
who knows?
baseballs. But so fastballs obviously pretty simple. I'm across
Mm-hmm.
here, horseshoe on the inside right here, and then
Yep.
which when I started thinking about doing my fastball like this, I wanted to emulate the slider as close to I could as it because I wanted this shape to be the same. I wanted to come out the same way.
Yeah.
So the Grom is actually interesting. So he goes right here, and then he just tilts his slider. So he just
Mm-hmm.
tilts it, and that's why he gets probably a little bit more of a cutter action than I do.
Yeah.
He still
It's not slider as
Yeah.
much.
yeah. So he just gets
Yeah.
that tilted cutter, and he throws it as hard as he can. So I was doing the same. I just wanted more depth, so I scooted over from here just to right here,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and it's like there. And what I wanted to do was I want to stay on top right here and
Yeah.
get a tumbling downward effect because I wanted to miss, knowing that this is going to be my main pitch, I wanted to miss as many barrels as possible. And that downward action always usually gives you that. And if I could get enough movement with some velo, I knew it was going to be effective because
Sure.
something that is thrown so hard and then also moves a lot can really mess some
Breaking
guys
ball
up.
velo is so important.
Yeah, breaking
Yeah.
ball velo. And then also this is the one we were working on, obviously, this off season. Again,
Yeah.
pretty similar to fastball, slider, and then I would just wrap around and I would spike that
All working
curveball.
off that. Yeah.
So all
Mhm.
trying to work
All working
off.
off that similar plane above the
Absolutely.
ball.
Yeah, and just
Yeah.
I think arm speed for me has always been so important because that makes the difference in the world in terms of selling the pitch and making everything look the same and not having things pop out.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll just finish with this. We've been on this for a while, and I appreciate your time, man.
Of course.
Why be young? Why would you want to come here? What would you tell people? Like, what makes this place special or different?
My favorite thing about Be Young, and I know it's different because I've heard different things from other places, but dude, there's no egos in Be Young. It's all a collective group of people working together. There's no one, whether it's you or Chris or Joe or your Brandon, there's no one telling you what to do because y'all all recognize because. Especially since you played at such a high level as well, you all know it's it's our career. It's no one else's career. It's no one else's ERA and numbers and strikeouts. And whatever we're most comfortable doing, y'all are going to ride with us till the end until we can make that happen. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I felt so comfortable being there and talking to you and doing things that make me comfortable and working with the ways that I move compared to how Mason might move or how Ryan might move. There's so many different ways to skin a cat. So it's like it's such a good environment to be in because we can be ourselves and no one's going to get mad at you for being yourself. So, and obviously I'm a lot to handle when I walk in those doors, and no one
Just a little bit.
no one holds me back from that. So it's pretty great, and we all push each other, which is great. Me and Mason, we had a really good time working out together and pushing each other and doing new movements and trying to be the best that we can be. So it's a pretty awesome.
Well, that's awesome.
Awesome place.
Well, again, thank you, dude. Like, This was awesome for me, and I know you're going to help a lot of people out, especially with how you're able to get to where you're at,
Absolutely.
um, and the story behind it. So, like, dude, really grateful for you and you sharing your experience, and fired up for you, dude. Can't wait to see you pitch in the big leagues this year, and hopefully we'll be able to get out and watch. But
Absolutely. I
the Italian
appreciate you.
Stallion, Mitchell Stumpo.
Thank y'all.
Oh man, you're the man. Thank
Thank
you.
you.